Okay, welcome everyone to a very exciting panel on the future of InsurTech in Singapore and the region. My name is Angad Sandhu. I'm a partner at Oliver Wyman and lead our Asia Pacific insurance practice, and I'm very privileged to host five very esteemed members in the discussion today. So I'll introduce the panelists and then we'll sort of get into the Q&A. So first up, we have Yang Yang, who's the General Manager of Zhong'an Tech Global for Southeast Asia, in charge of business development and operations. Yang brings 12 years of experience in online payments, starting his career as an engineer at PayPal, with experience across banking and insurance. Welcome, Yang. And we have Natalia Kozura, who's an innovation leader with 16 years of experience in driving product development and strategic partnerships across Asia, US, and Europe at FWD Insurance, Microsoft, Amazon, and tech startups. She's very passionate about enhancing customers' lives by defining product strategy, leading cross-functional teams, and building innovative products. Welcome, Natalia. We have Thomas Kurzik, who started his career in Poland as an entrepreneur, turned into a consultant, and after working across multiple industries and countries, now serves as the Chief Transformation and Digital Officer at AXA Insurance in Singapore. He is a self-confessed geek at heart. From the moment he wrote his application and first website at age of 12, he got fascinated with the opportunities that technology creates around us. Welcome, Thomas. And then finally, but not least, we have Laurent Bertrand. Laurent is a co-founder of Better Trader, a Singapore fintech established in April 2015. He became the CEO in July 2019 and oversees global business operations and sets the strategic direction for BTO. Laurent brings over 20 years of experience in delivering large-scale transformations through technology, notably in wealth management and private banking. He's also spent time working at a Swiss private bank, management consulting, and in retail. So welcome, Laurent. So we do have a very fantastic and diverse panel, and I think it should be a cracking discussion. But to get things off, Natalia, why don't we start with yourself, given your focus around innovation and having worked across multiple jurisdictions. What do you think are some of the major trends that you expect to shape the future of insurance?
Thank you for the question, Angad. I would say what we're seeing right now, the biggest trends are all around the automation. There is so much can be done to improve customer experience journey, all the way from customer onboarding, underwriting to the policy, customer servicing, submitting the claim. And basically what we are seeing right now at WD and across the industry is a major effort to automate each part of that journey, utilizing the latest advances in tech, of course, utilizing the machine learning modeling to optimize some of the underwriting practices as well as customer servicing. And this creates a win-win situation where we have a premium customer experience and also industries continue to evolve and continue to better serve our customers and also become more efficient with our internal processes. So by far, to mention the largest trend that I'm seeing.
Fantastic. No, thanks, Natalia. I think that there is clearly a lot happening in that space and become even more pronounced during COVID. Maybe sort of, Thomas, getting your perspectives, anything else you see in addition to what Natalia mentioned around sort of major trends impacting insurance?
So I think that we have a convergence of two large trends. One is over the past few years, especially outside of Asia, the insurance companies were had to operate in the environment of low interest rates. They were actually putting a lot of pressure on the efficiency and the cost structure. And right now, this situation extended even to Asia in the face of COVID, and it's highlighted the structural weakness of the industry in a sense that is relied a lot on the manual operations and inefficiencies, and the cost of running the business is quite high compared to the other businesses that operate intangible products. So a lot of focus is right now into move to the invest to it's nothing new, but this is critical for what is awaiting us in the next 2 or 3 years, is really reduce the amount of fixed cost structure, move to the more variable cost structures, especially for adopting automation, straight-through processing, new type of the technologies. What is the difference? Right now it expands. Before it was usually focused on operation. Now it's really end-to-end, tackling as well the operating models and target operating models of more traditional distribution channels, especially in the life side, which are the life agency, bank assurance models that are we are looking at the end-to-end transformation, because to help to make the industry much more healthier and better, and as well to in the end to reflect in the costs for the customers and type of the innovation from the product and service perspective, fixing those issues.
Excellent. Thank you, Thomas. And I think clearly sectors across the global insurance are facing a lot of cost and efficiency pressure, and from shareholders as well, because it is suppressing returns. So if I piece those things together, I think, Jan, it'd be good to get your perspectives, because technology has a huge role to play in enhancing customer experience, as well as then sort of reducing the cost base. And obviously, Zhongran's done fantastically well in China and is now sort of doing similar things in Southeast Asia. So keen to get your perspectives around, the potential for technology, both enhance experience as well as reduce cost.
Yeah, I think this year is full of black swan events, and obviously that brings challenges to a lot of industries. And we believe that the capability in terms of technology is one of the differentiators across different players in this market, especially insurers, because the traditional channel and including the traditional products and the way that it engage with customers no longer work as they used to be in the past. And because customers have new demands and new behaviors that actually push the industry to adopt the latest changes from customers. And in China, we operate as a digital insurer, and overseas we play a role as tech enablers for the online digital platforms as well as insurance companies. So from different angles, we get a deep feeling, how technology can differentiate and help them to overpass these difficult times. It's end-to-end, right? So, for example, in China's market, we use new ways to engage with customers, to onboard customers, very personalized, because different customer groups, they were expecting different ways that insurance companies engage online with their digital, right? Because offline doesn't work that well anymore. And also, technology that can help the product design as well, especially, given this period of time, you need to do a better work of risk management, which pretty much leverage your data processing capabilities. For example, more and more products, you need to embed COVID into it. And in future, that there will be definitely more and more uncertainties. So those just in place, bigger challenges for insurance companies. And like Thomas mentioned, given that agent cannot meet with clients anymore, however, insurance as a complicated product, you need human touch. So that's why I think during this period we worked with insurance partners and even ourselves to develop like a live way that agent can engage with their customers. And however, it's not only the technology, right? You need to make sure that the product itself is very straightforward. So it's very easy for the agent to explain to their customers without face-to-face meeting. and you need to provide online services, including endorsement, claims. And actually, this just emphasizes the importance of cross-entity collaboration, right? Because you need the collaboration on a product as well as technology perspective from customer onboarding, policy insurance, endorsement, claims, and risk management, right? So that actually emphasizes the importance that every stakeholders in the value chain need to move at the same pace. And actually technology serves as a foundation for that.
No, that's fantastic, Yang. Thank you for the perspectives and clearly a lot in what you mentioned, which we'll unpack in the next half an hour. Starting sort of back with the customer, which all of you have made reference to in one way or another. Laurent, it'd be good to get your thoughts because your startup, whilst it serves many insurers, ultimately is trying to solve a problem for many customers, which is around helping them with their financial health, helping them engage better and plan better. So we're keen to get your perspectives around how you sort of start with sort of a customer front of mind and the solution that you have, how that's helping both customers and insurers.
Thanks, Angat. Yes, it was mentioned by Yang and Thomas and Natalia, and I think customer remain at the center, but we have been in an industry which has been very product focused and pushing for products not good enough. And I think that COVID-19 has done two things. First, it has accelerated the need to digitalize because when you cannot meet your clients, it's becoming difficult. Second, it has exposed also the weaknesses of the model, which is serving very few people because the cost of distribution, if the product is not simple enough or transactional, is pretty high. And we felt when we engaged that many people end up being underinvested and underinsured because they don't know how much is needed. And the fundamental question is everybody knows that you have to do something about your retirement, about protecting your family, and invest in the future and education. It's clear. And you can go in any country, in Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE, Malaysia, it's the same. Different context, different situation, different population, demographics, but the expectation is the same. And I think that for us, it was obvious from day one that our objective was to help to reach the largest number of people so that they too can benefit from a service which so far has been the exclusive of the very high end, so financial planning. To answer that question about how much do I need, you can explain a product, but what we have seen is if you're not convinced of what is the need, how much do I need to put, can I afford to do it, you're not taking the first step. Now, so second thing is probably trust. How do you build trust? And I think that's where technology bring a lot of advantage because gamification, transparency allow people to explore and educate at the same time. We should not forget that there is a huge element of trust built on the education, on this transparency. And if you are able to communicate that, it's important. I think the third part was mentioned by Yang on the cross entity. I think it's also cross region and cross location. A lot of actors to be efficient needs to have a certain size and operate in multiple locations. But every location has different regulation, different context. And so the ability to have a segment of one, which is literally what clients want, is my life. And moving from a product-driven to a client-driven conversation is an integral part of the journey. So you cannot just have a calculator. You have to have something which is engaging, convincing, and answering the fundamental question that people have. And I think that most of the time I hear advisor is going to be replaced. Our view is very simple. It's not either or, it's and. Self-service and advisor. And I do believe if I look at the population of people who came on our platform, so if you go on upplan.sg in Singapore, you can do your plan for free and we do it as a test lab for us. We see that a lot of people don't stop there. For a lot of people, it's the first time they are answering this question and then realize that maybe I should talk to an advisor. But if you facilitate this conversation, if you orchestrate it in a way that is compelling and that makes it really about what matters to the client and what matters to the bank, taking away all the complexity, all the 8-page forms because you have to ask those questions and not really realizing that it's a better advice. I think you get in much better place. So our hope is that COVID-19 had demonstrated that a lot of what we believe was true, that you cannot sell online, that's not true. People using a solution has achieved the same benefits, not better when they do it online. I've been taken away. And I think, unfortunately, the crisis in terms of revenue and cost has been an accelerator also in the transformation that is needed. And I do believe that at the end of the day, this engagement with the customer will make the difference for many companies. And that's where the data is going to be critical to be able to have an offer which is differentiated from a competitor. Not only collecting the data, but orchestrating the data in the engagement.
Yeah, no, thanks, Laurent. I think very, very helpful and clearly a lot in what you've mentioned. I think what is clearly played out in the last 8-9 months during COVID is that the different distribution channels have been forced to become a bit blurred, right? So because underneath all of them, there is now a huge focus and need to digitize. And therefore, although historically you've had a huge agency channel, a bank channel, a direct channel, insurers and startups are realizing actually the core of those needs to be heavily digital. It doesn't mean the channels will go away, but that there is a lot of opportunity to improve the experience within each. But before we sort of leave the customer experience points, for me, a lot of the challenges for the sector go at the heart around focusing on the experience. And again, it's not a new phenomenon per se. I think insurers have been talking about becoming customer-centric for decades. So maybe, Natalia, let's start with yourself and we'll get the group's views around, what is changing, what is going to be different this time around in how insurers, try and become more customer-centric and try and deliver better experiences than what's been the case in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question, Angat. I would say what we are seeing, because FWD, we are a digital insurer across 9 markets in Asia Pacific. And for us, understanding our customer from, again, each part of their journey is a key to success. We are organizing lots of usability studies and understanding what's important now, especially during this COVID time, versus what has changed in the last year. And we are seeing trends. Definitely there's additional ask. We already have digital presence across all of our markets, but now there is a larger demand from the customers to have this experience, to be aligned with what our customers are seeing in other industries. Similar to what Yang mentioned, is insurance in a way is becoming e-commerce type of platform where the purchasing needs to happen within minutes, or in some cases seconds. Claims filing needs to happen within the same amount of time. So this is something we are seeing in the industry, and this is something that our customers are looking for us to support. And again, for FWD, the customer satisfaction is a key driver to how we run the business, and that's the changes we started to adopt. So there is definitely an investment in creating more of these digital channels, optimizing some of this online to offline use cases when needed, and also seeing what additional features we can enable and how better we can serve our customers. That's been accelerating for sure this year, and every market is asking for slightly different ways of supporting their customers. For example, Thailand, Japan, Indonesia, Hong Kong, Singapore all have slightly different customer needs. But the way we implement our solutions, we build the core functionality and we scale it and customize for each market. So in terms of cost and speed to market, it's optimized. And at the same time, we are able to optimize the customer experience by customizing and enabling the functionality that is required in that market. So that is going well for us, and we'll continue as a company to continue invest in the space.
Thanks, Natalia. And I guess before we move to some of the others, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges, right, as you sort of try and sort of scale this? Because I think, as Laurent mentioned, and it was mentioned earlier, insurers have historically been they've kind of treated the agents as their customer. And whilst there has been a marked shift of late, in many cases, in many markets where agency is still the dominant channel, there still is a bit of delay and or hesitation in how fast do you become customer centric, and how much do you cater to agents, how much do you cater for customers. So keen to get any perspectives around, in a few years we expect insurers to become much more customer centric, and what, if any, challenges you foresee in that path.
Yes, I believe, in terms of the insurance as an industry, we do have quite a bit of requirements that we have to comply with around the compliance, which are critical and, of course, very important. But it does take a bit of additional time to figure out the solutions for each of the requirements in order to scale. I think that's one thing. The second thing is customer adoption, and basically getting some of a bit more traditional customers on board with the new way of buying insurance and how the insurance products are serviced. So we, as an insurer, is to make sure that we educate our customers on those new products. In terms of the agency, we do have a big agency presence in some of our markets. So how we actually enabling our agency force by giving them additional digital products that enable and simplify the customer engagements that the agent has with their customer. So in a way, we enable across both channels, direct to consumer, but also we are using tech and automation tools to empower our agents. And that's over time, I think the combination of that human factor combined with technology is going to be very powerful. And that's what we believe the trend is going to be. It's not only going to be automated, maybe for some more simple kind of products, maybe some of the general insurance like travel and car, but like more complex life and savings products. Customers are comfortable talking to agents, and we are happy. We want to enable that personalized experience, but in the same time, technology is there to support and address any questions and streamline the underwriting process and claims submission process.
Excellent, thanks, Natalia. And I guess, Thomas, having worked for a large, global insurer that's been, at the forefront of innovation for a number of years across markets, how have you seen the journey and the focus around end customer, evolve? Do you feel that there still is tension in terms of managing different requirements of agents versus customers, or do you think it's actually now there is a common understanding that we can serve both, and ultimately it'll benefit us as well as the end customers?
Yeah. So as you rightly pointed, insurance have been talking about customer centricity. I've been working in the industry for close to 9 years, and as a consultant, I heard about this even before. So it's definitely a new topic, and clearly it is important and not done. The job is clearly not done because we are still talking about this. And when it comes to the differentiation between the human-assisted agents supported versus self-service, especially in the Asian market, it's very important. And we have to remember that in Asian context, in many cases, agent is basically a concierge for the customer, because agent is able to do almost everything. And in many cases, customers have a very intimate relationship. They will just WhatsApp the agent, and the agent will going to do what the customer is asking. So this is definitely, so if you look from this perspective, agent is actually one of the biggest multiplier of the personalization of the experience that you provide. But so far in the past, and the gap was where the companies were not able to provide to the agent the same access to the information and processes as the central teams, either in the customer care or either in the operations. And this is where a lot of changes have been done. And we have done, actually, today, our agents, they see exactly the same information of course, filtered based on the compliance and other. And they see there's a real-time exchange of information, what agent is doing, if the customer is doing something through the digital channels, through the customer care. And this helps a lot, because for those customers that actually prefer to be served by the agent, when they WhatsApp the customer, when the customer WhatsApp the agent can immediately reply because he is able to process, execute a transaction, or get the same sort of information. There's no gap, and this is where the things were breaking in the past. But of course, today, a lot of more customers are more comfortable doing the self-service. And especially, as Natalia mentioned, for simpler products where actually there's not so much, that's straightforward and doesn't require high touch or explanation or service during the life cycle of the policy. You buy, you select the cover, maybe you make some adjustment that you can do by yourself very quickly, but then it's done. So those products definitely customers are preferring the engagement. In the past, there was, I think, a bit of attention and change management required between traditional agency channels and those companies pushing for self-service, because it was seen as an opposite. But right now, during the COVID, everyone is seeing it as a complementary, because it allows agent to focus on value-add service and assisting the customer, explaining. Because let's be honest, in case of insurance, there's a clear stratification of products, and this will not go away. From simple products, definitely, but there is still need for complex products that address complex needs, because it needs to be help customers in the life, and life is not easy. Everyone is complicated, everyone's life, and there are different permutations. So this is where you need to advise. So in the next phase, what we're going to happen is not so much about simplicity, it's more about flexibility and being able to compose the products on demand, not necessarily try to satisfy everything with the simple product, because in the end, if you put too many simple things, in the end you create a bit more entropy in the process. So that's, I think this will be the next stage of the enabling the customers and really achieving this truly omni-channel experience for the customers, independently what they prefer or how they are being serviced.
Yeah, and thanks, Thomas. And I think for the sector and subsectors within insurance, be it life, health, or GI, one of the challenges has been they haven't had as much data on their consumers. They haven't really understood the customers as well as they'd like to, and therefore, to your point around products have been largely fairly static, rather than evolving, with customers as their sort of needs evolve. Now, Yang, maybe sort of get your perspectives, because obviously, Zhongan's done a lot around product innovation. You mentioned that it's not just about technology, but it's also around, creating the right sort of products. From your experience, particularly in Southeast Asia, are you, and through the partners that you've worked with, are you seeing a lot of focus around, product innovation? And is there any insights you can share around, what is sort of changing on that front now? Given historically, products took a year to develop and they were sort of set and forget, whereas we know that customers now have less appetite for those kind of things.
Yeah, I think product innovation has been quite a challenging topic, especially when we talk about the new distribution channels, which are digital platforms or ecosystem partners. Because normally that we are seeing different mindset, different pace, different methodologies when doing this product design. Especially you can imagine that when digital platforms, they want to do some product innovation, they want to have a new product. Their mindset is, okay, I can have this product live within a month, right? So that's simple. However, I think for most of the insurance companies, that will take them 7 months to go through a very systematic and traditional process to bring that product online. Give example, I think product innovation. So we mentioned about customer centric, because the way that we do product innovation should be customer centric as well. However, to be frank, I think the insurance companies normally they are at the later stage of seeing the customer changes, right? So I think one key point is, in order to fully implement and turn around on that customer-centric approach, we need to step forward and ask, who knows the customers the best in the market? I would say nowadays in the digital world, it's the digital platforms, right? They cover the customer demand on a daily basis. And whenever there is a change of customer behavior, they are the first ones to know, right? So that emphasizes the importance of insurance companies to work with and closely work with the digital platforms. If you talk about, transportation, that'll be, you can see the changes from like Grab customers with data, right? If you talk about e-commerce, then Shopee, Zada. If you talk about travel, then it's Klook, right? So, and also the data that they can sort of get compared with the traditional channels will be, much more. So even though that when we design the product, we talk about the lifetime value of customers. However, right now, the lifetime values, it's becoming more and more fragmented, right? For the same age, same occupation, but still the experience could be different. The pricing could be different. Give an example, like I think so far this year, one of our partners, Grab Insure, we've launched 20 new products across different markets, right? If looking at 20 new products from a traditional insurance perspective, I can imagine that it would be very challenging. However, I think they've achieved this by having a well-formed technology. So launch the product quicker, and whenever they launch a product, they do A/B testing to make sure that they capture and match the demand of different customers. And also, they have quite strong insurance partners on the back, which can have the same pace with them. Of course, on the insurance partner side, they need to make sure that they can bring this product alive within a very quick manner, and also they have a strong tech backend which can integrate with platforms like Grab and launch those products and get real-time data and provide services. Right? So like the insurance partners, including NTS Income or Job, and also AXA was one of them. So they turned out to be very good partners for those digital platforms. And I would like to echo what Natalie and Thomas mentioned. The new distribution channels, the product innovations, are really supplemental to agencies. And though I believe that most of the sort of insurance companies do face the challenges that internally, some stakeholders might think it's cannibalization, right? It's not supplemental. However, I think that just double emphasize the importance of product innovation. Because if you still sell traditional product, then that's very easy to get yourself into the challenges. However, you really need to be innovative on product offerings, especially to echo the new demand from customers, like new risks.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jack. I think very helpful perspectives. I think there's, if I sort of sum up the first part of what you said around, there is a huge migration of now insurers focusing around the e-commerce platforms because that's where the customers are acting more. So it's about go where your customers go. And in the same vein, because consumer preferences are changing, there's a different set of consumers that are interacting there. You kind of need a different DNA around developing new products, much more often. Laurent, I was keen to, I know you come at this from a different lens, but I was sort of keen to get any perspectives from you around, when your startup does capture this information around customers' preferences, customers' needs, what's important to them. Through that process, do you uncover any insights around that can be helpful for product innovation, either at that point in time or perhaps in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it goes without saying that once you have a platform like us, which allow you to visualize the consequences of your decision, be it I retire later, I buy a product, I don't buy a product, I invest in a house, whatever it is, what you have is two things. One is the data about what is the situation of a client in a much more granular and much more relevant manner. So you understand really their situation, their evolution, their options. Second, you can uncover their preferences, explicit or implicit. So explicit in the sense that I'm trying to see if I prefer this product versus this option. So, for example, do I want to retire earlier and spend less at retirement? Do I need to invest more risky because it's long term? So you see those trade-offs very explicitly. But what you can also see is kind of the implicit trade-off through the usage of the solution. And what is very interesting is to see that our solution is not only used within an advisor or by yourself. There is a continuum of the experience. So we've been very successful with a financial advisory firm in Singapore to pre-onboard the client before a meeting. It's quite interesting. You do a webinar, and I think last time was 300 people there, and about 75 said, "Oh, I would like access to the solution," and enter their own information before the meeting, which means that as an advisor, you have a much better prepared discussion and a much better experience. The same way go around if you have met your advisor, use a solution to build a plan together and come to a conclusion, I want to buy a product or not. You can continue this experience on your own because you have seen it playing. And so it's very interesting to see the kind of trade-offs that I explore with an advisor or on your own. And you realize, and part of it is not a static view. We use what we call actionable ideas to help people nudge and explore different options that they were not even aware of. And so this part is quite interesting because that's where we realized, for example, when we did a launch in Switzerland, that many women, or above 20%, I won't tell you the exact number, but it was interesting, were considering if they could retire earlier or buy a bigger home in case they spend less money on the education of their children. And I can tell you that no woman would ever say that when you're a mother. And I don't think they would do it, by the way. But that was interesting to see that that's something they consider in the comfort and privacy of their home. So I believe at the end of the day, for me, data has always been something which throughout my whole career has been central to everything I've done. But throughout the years, I discovered it's not sufficient to have data about the preferences and collecting them. It's also very important to craft an experience which is adapted to that, and being able to identify the weak signals of demand or of changes is incredibly important. But for me, the last part, and that's where insurers have an amazing opportunity, is trust. Okay, bank and insurer have institutional trust like there is no tomorrow, and most of people underestimate it. It's very common for a lot of startups to say, I want to destroy banks, I want to destroy insurance. I think on the contrary, this trust is there, and that means when you use this data, you're expected to deliver a better experience, a better result for your clients. So what has been always shocking me at the beginning was I was not clear if people would share the data, if they would tell about your dream, if they were going to enter their revenue, if they will tell you all the portfolios they have with another bank and another insurance. But you realize very quickly that if you're able to demonstrate the value of your advice and the value of your products in this context, people understand very well the benefits they have to share more. And this is literally a win-win situation, because in many places what is happening is you have incomplete information or inferred information, and might not be accurate, but even better, even if you're very good at it, and yes, the Google of this world are very good at it, the problem is it appropriate? And if you're a bank and an insurance, yes, it is. Because literally people come to you to have a better advice, something personalized. They want this kind of really feeling, me, the client, is most important, your product is a solution. And I think this is a path which, if you ask me, get me the most excited, because not only can you deliver that, I used to work in private banking before, if you're rich, but now with technology, you can reach out to a much broader segment of the population. Anybody with a mobile and internet now can receive the benefits of life insurance, of more complex product, if you are able to deliver it to them properly. And I think this is a part which, from an education standpoint, getting the data, identifying the opportunity for new products is next level, because it's not just for one segment. It's not just put $500 every month, because I don't know much more of your life. No, maybe in 3 years from now, you need to pay the down payment for your home, and then you have your kids going to college. But at the same time, you want to retire later, because guess what? You never want to stop working. And that's a very different situation from someone who wants to take a sabbatical, or maybe for the next 5 years, start working part-time, because for them it's very important, the education of my kids. All those combinatory, if you look at it, is very, very large, and all of them warrant to have a bespoke advice. Until now, the problem was the process is slow, it's human-driven, it's very manual, and to be clear, mostly I've seen product pushing throughout my years. I think the shift is happening now, and I believe that I'm expecting a lot of innovation in product as long as the organization are able to turn around fast enough. Because I don't think that it will be a much more, how could I say, competitive market, where some of them will be able to use the data and their distribution to come with innovation at speed and at scale, and others are going to struggle much more because their cost to income ratio and their ability to deliver it will be hampered by all the regulation and all your existing processes. And that transformation is exciting to see from the inside as we work with our clients.
Yeah, no, thanks, Laurent. I think it's if you go back to insurance and why insurance was set up, a lot of it was actually around information asymmetry. It's like insurers can actually analyze pools of information better than others can, and therefore provide protection for a pool of customers. And what's fascinating is that the advances in analytics and technology have been far, far superior than what the insurance sector by and large has sort of embraced and deployed themselves. So I certainly believe that if insurers working with startups can develop these flywheels where they capture more data more often, then use it, it'll just lead to significant benefits for consumers as well as the sector.
We saw it immediately. You saw it in revenue and sales, and it's significant. So there is no. So once you bring the product to the mix, it's going to be an incredibly powerful combination for sure.
Completely agree. So maybe sort of shifting tack to the idea of we've had a lot of money come into InsurTechs in the last 5 to 7 years. Many large insurers themselves are calling them InsurTechs these days. So it's the lines are really blurring between what is an incumbent insurer, what is a startup, and how best they sort of work together. But I was sort of keen to get the panelists' thoughts around if you are a small InsurTech today in Singapore, and you want to you believe you can you have a good set of people and you want to really sort of shake up the industry. Which part of the value chain would you try and tackle, and get your thoughts around sort of why do you think there is still sort of opportunity there? Maybe Natalia, let's start with you, and then let's go around the room and get their thoughts.
In terms of InsurTech, of course, we engage with quite a few InsurTech companies from Asia, from Europe, US. And so it's quite interesting. I would say, like, on daily basis, I think I meet or speak with 1 to 2 companies. And of course, over a year, it's a very large number of companies to engage with. My take on it. So usually when an InsurTech company, a startup, has a proven use case, either it was some kind of initial prototype that was released to production, that's always good to see. As an insurer, I would like to see that the solution has proven itself. And also what I really like to see is the focus of the company on a specific use case. Because in a few cases, it seems like the company is doing everything, which is very hard to be the best when you do everything. That focus is quite good to see in the companies that I prefer to work with. And the last thing that what I've seen, and I think quite a few InsurTech companies starting to become more aware, is insurers like us, we also have very strong development team, engineering teams. And if the cost structure is not optimized, because it's all coming back to our customers, we are very cost sensitive, and we want to make sure the solutions that we're utilizing priced properly. So in case if that's something that is not offered on the market, we'll go ahead and build something in-house as well, because and that's something we've done in a few cases, just because it was better for us to own this IP that we can customize and improve across all of our markets. And in terms of the pricing structure, we were saving 90% of the cost. So I think that's something for InsurTech companies to keep in mind as well, is it needs to be reasonable, because I think more, not only WD, the more and more insurers are becoming cost sensitive. And those solutions need to be the best in class for specific use case, proven with 1 or 2 customers, and reasonably priced. So that would be my recommendation.
That's very helpful, Natalia. And would you have a preference for someone focusing on customer experience, on pricing, underwriting, claims, or you're indifferent? You sort of consider everyone.
So I'm looking at across the whole value chain companies, and I do see the solutions literally across the board. I don't have a specific area where I was like, oh, this would be great to have. But the company is not there. Sometimes the accuracy of the solution is not as good as I would like it to be. And for example, because of the accuracy not being as high, we might choose not to roll it out to production as of yet. But I would say I'm saying there's InsurTech solutions for pretty much any use case you can have in mind. And in some cases, even if they don't have a product, but they have a similar product, the companies are really eager to give it a try and solve that use case as well.
Sure, no, thanks, Natalia. I think that's really helpful perspectives around how you go about selecting InsurTechs to work with. Maybe Thomas, maybe I'll sort of tweak the question a little bit for yourself in terms of, again, if you're giving advice to a startup today in Singapore, given the InsurTech space is quite crowded, it is tough to sort of get attention from large insurers, and as Natalia said, many incumbents have in-house capabilities. Would there be 1 or 2 areas where you would say, actually, here are 1 or 2 parts of the value chain where, we still haven't seen as much, and they're less contested, there's more room for opportunity there?
Yes, let me now wear my hat as Singapore FinTech Association ExCo and the chair of InsurTech committee, and on the side as well as trying to do some angel investing. So where I see the white spots and blind spots. So if you look at the history of the funding and where the funding was concentrated, and usually funding will follow first the low-hanging fruits. So the low-hanging fruits are in the same areas. So it's what is easy, simple and easy, and that was usually distribution, marketing, and customer experience, with the predominantly in the P&C side. A bit more in health and life, which is by nature it's a bit more complex, and we see much less. Same in the commercial lines. So where I see white spots is especially in the market that is very big, is ready, is commercial lines. It's but the barrier for InsurTechs to enter this market is just understanding of the market. The market is a bit more hermetic and it's more closed, and it's a bit more specialized, but right now on the commercial lines side, there's a lot of areas that are ready for simple automation or improvement of the process, or just changing how the business is done. So it's definitely one. Second one is areas where, because it's always easier to sell to someone if you can sell on savings, especially in this current environments. If you have solutions that can provide savings. And we have seen quite a few companies doing this right now, using machine learning and other ways to optimize costs, especially on the claim side, from fraud, waste, abuse, and so on. But I think there's still area where this can be improved. Plus, more core to the insurance space of underwriting and pricing. Those are, I would say, biggest white spaces, especially in health and life. So those would be the areas where we haven't seen so many companies yet, but I think it's coming, because clearly the low-hanging fruits, the markets where the low-hanging fruits, the parts of the market is getting saturated. So it's naturally to be shifting to more complex and more defensible areas. I think we are seeing the first sprouts happening now, actually this year, and I expect this trend to continue next year.
Excellent. Thanks, Thomas. Maybe a final question to Yang and then Laurent. Given both the organizations you represent are startups, obviously at different scales and different spectrums. Keen to get your perspectives on, when you sort of go about partnering with large insurers, if there was sort of one advice you would give to them around what they could do differently to, make the partnerships more successful, more effective, either from an onboarding perspective, selection perspective, or ongoing perspective. Be keen to get any advice. We start with yourself, Yang, and then from Laurent as well.
Yeah, sure. So I think one very important point has been mentioned by Natalia is the commercial optimization. Because I think when startups, InsurTechs work with insurance companies, they are at different positions from every perspective, right? So I think one, getting to be very focused. One or two areas that they could, be specialized and bring value. And I think another very important thing that I want to raise is to, be agile but patient. Because as a startup, you need to be very agile in a way that you develop the management team, you adjust yourself to match with the latest trends in the market. If from what I've seen in the market in terms of, there are some market potential for, InsurTech startups to play in. I think first of all, compared with other financial sectors like banking or payments, I think the investment put into InsurTech are still much less. So there is a huge potential. It's especially, the turmoil these days emphasize the importance of insurance to the customers. I think there is a demand. Then the problem is how that, insurance or InsurTech can react that quickly to match that demand. And then talking about some specifics, I think now most of the InsurTechs that we've seen are focused on B2C or B2B2C, leveraging the technologies or data processing, because they need to strive for either, customers or premiums in the short term. And of course, most of them are not making profitability, but they need to strive for, early stage stories that they can leverage on in order to survive in the first, one round or two. And let InsurTech companies playing a role in the claims risk management side, because I guess one that rely on a better infrastructure in different markets. And it will take much longer time for them to really connect with different players and get enough data in order to, define the algorithms or models to deliver real value to the insurers. Because insurers are not only looking for something that can control the risk, because it's very simple in order to control the risk, you could be more conservative, right? However, that it will compromise your top lines. So insurance companies nowadays are not looking for something that is purely more conservative, but they're looking for something that can save the cost, but at the same time don't compromise their top lines. Right? So that's a higher requirement for the claim part. And also, we've seen quite some good cases in mature market like the US or Europe in terms of like auto insurance, but we haven't seen that much in South Asia markets yet. Right? And also, I think when we have more and more product innovations, one thing gets also more and more essential is the marketing and customer education. So I think we've seen some, insurers, InsurTechs that are doing a very good job in, on the front end customer experiences. However, we haven't seen a lot on the, marketing specifically for insurance products or the customer education. Which I think in other markets it's emerging. So that might be a good, sort of track for the startups or even insurance companies to look at it.
Excellent. Thanks, Yang. Really appreciate it. Before, Laurent, we go to you, let me just check if there are any questions from the audience. I didn't see any in the chat room or in the participation, but if there are individuals who'd like to raise a question, happy to wait 30 seconds and pick that up. Okay, I can't see any hands raised. Okay, then maybe we'll sort of, Laurent, sort of final sort of similar perspective from yourself. You know, you've set up a fintech 5 years ago. You've been, you know, working with a number of insurers. You know, any perspectives or advice you would have around how the collaborations, you know, not just with yourself, but with players like yourself, could be more effective?
It can always be more effective, but I think that if I take our example and how we have progressed over time, one thing I've learned is it's important to have this focus, and that has been really helpful, that we are focusing on one thing and we try to do it very, very well, but also understanding how you must adapt the model to your clients. We were very systematic in approaching our client base to make sure that we can demonstrate the potency of our solution. At the end of the day, you need to make sure that your client is going to get what they pay for. And as an insurer, it could be better engagement, better revenue, you name it. That was one thing, and it takes time. There is no substitute to trying it. But I think the other side is, for an insurer, is to understand, also give visibility on what is your roadmap. I think in a few cases, we started with the premises, and large organizations tend to change direction. And it's not uncommon to have a discussion with one set of person and then end up the discussion with another set of person. And that's, I think, typical of large organization, but insurer are probably a special case in the financial industry, I would say. And it's not uncommon that you start on premises and then the direction is, oh, great, it works, but now we change our mind, we do something totally different. And the cycle is very long for a startup, which has a very different maturity and ability to absorb those costs, because every engagement with an insurer takes time. On the other side, I think that for the InsurTech, being able to have a clear model and being able to offer options so that the commercial makes sense for your client is very key. So we didn't have an API at the beginning. I mean, we have a lot of API, but we didn't expose it because we felt that the experience was critical in enabling this conversation. If you do something as complicated as financial planning and you're able to do it in 15 minutes successfully, there is a lot of work which has gone through the experience to enable that in an effective manner. And so we started with that, but then we realized a lot of our clients want to control their client experience. They have their own front end, their own IP also in terms of how they want to build the journey and develop their product. And I think you have to have the flexibility to offer both. What I can tell is, remarkably, with two of our clients where we are going to launch in January, one bank and one insurer, on a large scale, it went very, very fast. So contrary to the other engagements, the decisions were made and the implementation started probably in September, and we're talking about January launch. So it shows that it's possible. It really depends on the organization and the ability to structure your engagement with fintech and InsurTech in particular to get the most of this engagement. Because at the end of the day, I think nobody wins if you're just exploring. I think the learning cost of the engagement, if you look at the number of people you have to put in place for this engagement, it's pretty large. You can afford it, but at the end of it, I'm not sure it's the best experience for both parties when it takes so long.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, I think we're on the hour. So panelists, really wanted to thank you for your time and fascinating insights and perspectives. I think we can clearly conclude that there is a very bright future for InsurTech, in Singapore and the region, and lots of opportunity to help, redefine the sector. So Natalia, Thomas, Yang, and Laurent, thank you so much for your time, and a big thanks to Singapore FinTech Association as well for hosting the panel.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Angat.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Should we exit, or is there anything else you'd like us to